March 9th, 2015 at 4 o'clock. Can we have a roll call, please, Linda?
Yes, Renee Plain. Present. Jonathan Boulware.
Here.
Stan Jones.
Present.
Karen Aboud.
Here.
Jesse Dahmy is absent. We have a quorum.
Thank you. Can we all please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All righty, thank you. Any public comment? All right, seeing none.
Hold on.
Sorry.
For the record, Jim Shirk. It was so fast, I had to respond quicker, I guess. I'm sorry. I'm here as a citizen and as the representative of Board of Supervisors Ward 4. I do not or speak for the board. I just want to let you know, on the city website, on the calendar, this is not shown as meeting today. Also not listed are the minutes or the events on the city website. Also, it is not shown to be active board, committee, or a commission. It is not listed, no agenda or the minutes of the meetings are listed for today's meeting or prior meetings. If you do a search, you can pull up the Visitors Bureau and get the agenda that way, but that's the only way. I would encourage this committee to at least get your minutes of the meeting and on the calendar of the city website. That gives more exposure and allows citizens to attend should they want to. Also, I would encourage this committee to look at starting their meetings at 5:30. That would allow the working class citizen to attend should they so desire to attend. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Any other public comment? All right. For possible action, adoption of agenda. Any changes to the agenda?
I move we adopt the agenda, accept the agenda.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, thank you. Possible action, approval of minutes from the January 12th, 2015 board meeting.
I move to approve the minutes of the January 12th, 2015 board meeting as published. Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? All right, motion passes. Thank you. All right, for possible action, approval of the adjusted 2015 budget report.
Okay, in your packet, you will find reporting period as 67% of the year. Once again, when we introduce the budget reports, it'll be based on the calendar year or the fiscal year time in, so we're at 67% of the fiscal year 15. The accounting period is as of 08 to 2015. The only changes on this, when room revenues come in, you know that we're always behind 1 month on room revenues. So the room tax revenues are reported through January, where the expenses are going to be reported through February. So going on page 1, reporting once again at 67% of the year. Our revenues year to date are at 69% of projected. Our projected revenue is $1.5 million, $1,528,060. And the actual as of January room tax revenue is $1,054,962. So certainly ahead of schedule right now. I certainly would expect with us being in the legislative session that we're going to continue in that pattern. The bottom half, when you look at the adjustments to the revenue, that's taking into account our carryovers. The carryover is just our account. That's what we have in our bank account for emergencies. If something was to happen, we're always going to want to have a minimum of about 6 months in reserves. So those two, the gap between that 69 and that 81.7% will slowly come together near the end of the year because you're looking at a full calendar year of carryovers. But once again, very comfortable where we're at right now in our revenue projections. Any questions on the revenues? Page 1. Okay. Top of page 2. In the peach highlighted area, you can see that we're still accounting for the $100,000 buyout of the old building located at the Railroad Museum, of which we've used $28,383 for the setup of the new location. We'll include this in the budget until which time that we've completely adjusted throughout the summer months for any changes that we need with the store, and then we'll show that into our carryover account. Continuing down.
Sorry, Joe, can I interrupt? So that 71,000, so it's a separate line item that's not included in this until?
Correct.
Was it until when, you said?
I'm thinking that we'll probably carry that over as of May when we do our adjustments to the taxation. So when we do our adjustments with taxation, that's when we'll carry that over into the carryover account.
So this has to be listed as an adjustment,
Yes,
and then once you list adjustment, it'll just fall into the carryover account?
it'll fall into the carryover
Okay,
account.
all right.
Continuing down with our intergovernmental expenditures, this is the one that you've got your interlocal agreement with Carson City, the V&T Capital Project Fund. These aren't necessarily reflective year-to-date of the 67%. The city transfer these money, and when they transfer them, they get them over. Chris is going to work with city finance and trying to get them a little bit closer up to date, but they only do it, I think, quarterly.
Quarterly or sometimes just twice a year.
Yeah, maybe twice a year, but it's going to be reflective of the revenue. It's all percentages of revenue, so. Continuing down, salaries and wages, getting into the expenses now. Salaries and wages without benefits, we're at 63.8%, once again reporting 67% of the year, so we're doing great there. Bottom line with employee benefits, the only line item that flagged for being above the 67% was the car allowance for me, and once again, they're just ahead on the payment of that is all. It'll balance out because there's a set amount of $3,000, but that'll put us currently at 63%, at 67% of the year. So once again, we're spending less than we should at this point.
So I have a question for you.
Yes.
On the interlocal agreement, there hasn't been any discussion of well, we have at least talked about the MAC being a part of that. Now, if that happens, is there a breakout of this, where this 109,000? Can we see exactly what we're paying for, especially if we bring on that particular center? Because this number, I think, is going to go up.
Yeah,
That's right.
if we include the MAC in the interlocal agreement, I think one of the things we'll want to do first as a board is agendize maybe some possible changes to the interlocal agreement, just to really identify direct costs. And then we'll take that back to the Board of Supervisors and hopefully have that approved and adjusted with the interlocal agreement. But it does need to be detailed out, because right now, as we know, last year we were about 17,000 above what we expected in a portion of the interlocal agreement. We all know that it's imperative to have sports tournaments, and we're going to be expanding in that with the MAC, and there's going to be some cost for us. So, yeah, we'll certainly bring it back on the agenda. I'll see if I can, we have Roger coming in to do some line item expenses for what's been spent in this current calendar year. We'll have, maybe have him adjust also or talk about the interlocal agreement in regard to the MAC.
So I'd like to put on the record, at some future meeting, what our role exactly is going to be
Yeah.
in the MAC. I know we're talking finances, but,
Yeah.
our other responsibilities as well. We need to
I
really
think that's a
hammer
great
that
idea,
out.
because I've had some meetings with both city staff, Parks and Recreation, and the Boys and Girls Club of what our role would be in just bringing tournament directors. We'll put that on the agenda for next month and put it as a matter of record. Perfect. Okay, so once again, any questions? We're at 63%, reporting 67, so we've spent less than what we were projecting at this point of the year for salaries. Page 3, we get into all of the services and supplies expenses. Going down that list, professional services, we're at 61.4%. Property services, 52.2%. We have one flagged item, which is dues, memberships, and publications. It's one you pay up front for the year. That's the only reason why it's above the 67%. But bottom line, within other services, we're at 61.5, once again, spending less than projected. We're exactly at 67% with our marketing, and that's where we should be. Wherever our revenues are, we should reflectively be the same with our marketing, because that's obviously our number one mission. We've got a couple of red flagged items in there, though. We're a little heavy right now on our special events, which is the 0540, but we have provided the check to All World Sports for the $20,000. That's one of the biggest portions of that. The remaining $15,008, so we have $15,008, that's actually going to be earmarked mostly for special events pertaining to grants. So it is spoken for, and we'll spend right at that $15,000. The second one, reporting at 71.7%, with a remaining balance of $11,323 is our printing and advertising. And once again, that's just going to be reflective. We're going to spend what we have on printing and advertising. But we have been spending, although we're above the 71%, I don't foresee that we'll spend any more than that, because the majority of the stuff we're doing moving forward is either in-house printing and advertising or social media. The bottom line, the golf projects, we're at 73.9, and that's just another one that we spend up front for the total amount. We spent $6,500 of the $8,800 so far. But we're right at budget amount of 67% for marketing and advertisement. We're at 67.1% for operating supplies. The one that's red flagged in there is our operating supplies listed 0625. That's for everything pertaining to the operating of the store, so inventory, supplies. We still have just a little under $13,000 left for the remainder of the year, and we're looking right now at supplies of about $6,000 to $7,000 to get us through the remaining year, so I'm not anticipating spending any more than that. Utilities, we're right now currently at 49.2%. Bottom line, 67% of the year, we're at 61.7%, with a balance of 164,165 for the remainder year. So things are on track. We're doing great. Revenues are solid. There's not a lot of large expenses coming forward. When I get into the executive director's report later, we'll talk about some of the shows. So we have spent some money up front for some travel and shows over the last month and a half. The final page is just the worksheet for the projections of carryover for the fiscal year 15-16. It really comes into play at the end of the year and when we work May with Department of Taxation. So, any questions on the budget report?
Any comments from the audience about the fiscal year 2015 budget report?
I move to approve the monthly fiscal year 15 budget report as presented through February 28th of 2015.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Possible action approval for ratification of monthly bills.
Okay. In your package, you actually have two different sections. You have on the bottom left-hand side, you'll see a listing for the January 2015 bills. You'll also see a listing your back 4 pages for ratification of February 2015 bills. We'll go over the first 4 pages, the January 1st. On page 1, you can see that first listing of the $20,000 I mentioned, and that went to the All World Sports for their sports tournament marketing campaign. Basically, we're providing them $20,000 to do their marketing and their circle of, they have an outreach of well over 100,000 within their marketing, so it makes sense for us to continue to invest in them. We've had tremendous return on that investment. Moving down just a couple of lines, you'll see there's a payment for credit card charges. There's 2 lines this month.
Hey,
We're
sorry to
slow.
interrupt you. Can I back
Yes,
up
go
for a
ahead.
second? So when we invest in All World Sports, Parks and Rec, when are they coming to talk to us?
They're going to be on the agenda for our April meeting.
So, because I would like to ask them and remind, how is that relationship going? I mean, how does All World Sports feel like they're being serviced? And since we have a, investment with them, and also they bring that much business, but I want to make sure that their relationship is pretty stable. So Parks and Rec is coming for our next meeting?
Yeah, they'll be on the agenda for April.
Because moving
Yeah.
forward, are they going to play a significant role for the MAC Center and that type of stuff?
Absolutely. All World Sports will certainly be, being one of the largest on the West Coast, will be, I would say, I'm trying not to have all of those tournaments. I met with another tournament director with AAU last week. I'm hoping to have maybe 4 or 5 significant tournament associations involved in the MAC. So, and each one of them may be having 1 or 2 tournaments.
Because
But
it'll
yeah.
be here before we know it, so I want to make
Yeah.
sure we
It is going
covered
to
all
sneak
of
up
our
on us in
bases here.
December.
Okay.
And I think it might be a good idea to maybe even invite All World Sports to come in and just continue that relationship with them. I mean, that relationship's not just with the city and Parks and Rec, but certainly with us. Yeah, and let them know how much we support them. Okay. Moving down a couple line items. There's 2 line items for payment for credit cards. We try to do a lot of our purchases with our credit cards, but there's the old credit card, which is line item 1, which is the $6,418.46. That's actually the payment for what we covered on our last meeting, so that's not covered in this spreadsheet. That's just the payment for everything that you've already approved in the ratification of the bills. The second line item is for the P cards. Those are the new cards that we're using through the finance for the city. So you're going to see this for a couple of months as we reconcile and get some of our online payments and things that we have set up for monthly payments with our old credit card. But those are actually going to be listed on page 4 when we get to those, the $814.77. Continuing down, you've got the large items we'll cover real quick, the $4,000 for our rent and utilities. You've got the newsletter content. If you move down to the $2,272, this is a larger one for one of the independent contracts, but this includes some grant projects also that we're working on. We're creating some video content we're going to use throughout all of our platforms, so it's a little bit bigger line item. The rest of it's pretty standard going down. We try to touch on anything that's above normal. You can see the lodging tax payments for October and November of $4,000 and $3,000 for both October and November. Nothing else on that really jumps out. It's just standard, unless there's something that you see that you would want any additional information on page 1. Okay. Going to page 2, regional transportation standard, that's our bus passes we sell. We've got the RICO. It's listed now as a RICO on it. There's a couple of times you'll actually see that it's separated out. But we've been printing quite a few of the small brochure racks and quite a bit of posters throughout the last couple of months. So the payment's a little bit higher than it normally would be. We pay a little less than 4 cents per click. But we've gone through, I believe, nearly 5,000 of our brochure racks over the course of the last few months. Those are distributed anywhere from Tahoe locally, so anywhere you see the certified folder displays. And that's it on that. So that's totals for page 1 through 2 is $54,317.20. The page 3, this is the old credit card payment. This is the $999.60. And there's just standard on that. Once again, you've got some payments for the Facebook software that we've done, storage rental. It's all just standard monthly business. The Blue Bridge, the $699, that's just our monthly payment for the maintenance that we've got through, once again, that's a grant project, but we do maintenance for our mobile app. Page 4 of the January payments, this is the new credit card payment, which will be listed always a P card, not a credit card. And the only one on that is actually a web advertising for Allegra for $500. The rest of it are all just small. I had to get some antifreeze for Willie's to store them for the winter, so. Any questions on January's 4 pages of billings? Okay, continuing on for the ratification of February's bills. Once again, you'll see, I think it's line 3 and 4, 2 different line items. You'll see the $999.60, which I've already mentioned on page 3 from January that we paid for the credit cards. You'll see on page 3 of the February for the $5,232.15 for the P-card charges, and those will be listed on page 3. Continuing down, you've got the standard contractual agreements that stay anywhere from $750 up to $2,000. You've got one down, the Leviathan Media Group. That's listed a little differently. That's actually the website that we do for the David Toll site, and he does all of the Nevadagrams, and that's the payment for half a year. That's 6 months. The $900 you'll see listed just above that for Kathleen Hood. There was some pretty steep SEO and SEM invoices over the last couple of months, and we've narrowed that down. The scope of work moving forward is the max of $600 a month. And that is actually going to be covered through another grant that we got through Nevada Commission on Tourism, but the allotted amount will be $600 from here out through the rest of the year. And that should be more than enough to maintain the SEO of where we're at. Took a while to get there. That we did pay for the heat map and some other things that are part of that website. We're going to be addressing maybe a different hosting method, but the SEO will be handled through CAT, and that's it. So that'll go down $300 a month till the end of the year. And I don't know that we'll necessarily need to renew that contract because we'll be able to maintain that in-house. I'm confident Kyle can handle that. So continuing down below that, you've got the lodging tax payment for December of $3,383. The rest of it, I've got little over $1,000 for paper purchases. Once again, that's for that rack card visitor's guide that we hand out, that we print in-house. Any questions on page 1? Continuing on page 2, if you go down, you can see that payment for the heat mapping that we have on our current website. That's a payment for a full year of the heat map. So if we decide to do something different halfway through the year, we should get hopefully a credit for that. So there's nothing else on there other than, once again, you'll see that standard $699 for the maintenance of our mobile app. And those are, the listings on that page are actually the old credit card payments, the $1,590. Page 3 of 3, this is the $5,232 I mentioned from page 1 for the current P-card purchases. Going down, you can see there's a $1,900. That's we had to pay for the licensing agreement for the USA Today. That allows us to use the USA Today logo throughout all of our platforms. It's part of winning that I was not aware of, but yeah, you have to pay a licensing agreement to be number one.
How often do we have, is that a one-time fee?
That, it's a one-time fee. Yeah, that's it. And that, we did opt for the most expensive, so we could use it throughout every platform. And we have it on everything now. We have pop-up billboards we're using in our display booths at the shows that we did over the last month. We've got it on table runners, and you're going to see it everywhere. The second one, the 1174, we did buy as part of a display and also going to be mounted on the side of the Willys on a permanent bike rack as a mountain bike. As part of our branding, we had a street bike in our store, but we didn't have a mountain bike. Bought a mountain bike that stands out. It's one of the Fat Tire bikes. You'll see it around town. It's kind of, I'm letting staff take it to meetings and anywhere they want to go as long as they lock it up, and it has the big Carson City logo on it. So it'll be another one of those cool marketing pieces. I did actually see at the Santa Clara show one other group, and it was Tuolumne County that had a mountain bike as part of their display, and they actually created with a Fat Tire bike a brochure rack that I'm going to get my welder out soon. So continuing down, that's it on that, other than, once again, the final RICO payment for the month, which is the $1222.95, which is less than the months before because we did slow down a little bit on our printing. So that's the total on the P card, and that's everything for January and February. Ratification of bills, if there's any questions.
Any questions from the audience about the monthly bills? All right. Do a motion.
Make a motion. I move to approve the ratification of the CCVB monthly bills for both January and February of 2015.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? None. Motion passes. Thank you. For possible action, approval of for the CCVB to request proposals from licensed CPAs to conduct quarterly audits of Carson City lodging properties for the Bureau.
This is something we've talked about over the course of the last few months, looking at bringing back audits of lodging properties. It is part of the statute as the Visitors Bureau to do audits of properties when needed. Going back to fiscal year 05-06, other than 5 properties, every property in Carson City at some time received an audit from the Bureau. The Bureau contracted a local CPA to do those audits for us. Most of the findings were insignificant. In fact, through all of the audits from 2005 through the last one was actually 2009, there was actually a payment back to properties of $945.22. So most of the findings are in favor of the lodging properties in those audits, but I do think it's important that the properties understand that we do look at their books, that we do want to audit their properties. I would like to, starting July 1, go back to doing 2 property audits per quarter. That will, the audits, looking back historically, they were running anywhere from $800 to $1,000. I would be able to put in as a line item within our budgeting somewhere between that $5,000 to $10,000 based on 2 quarterly audits per property, random, unless they're, something that is red flagged that we certainly need to jump on, but we'll have that as a line item so that we can at least do, the 8 per year. I think it's imperative that the properties know that we're looking at the books. I can't say that going through the last several months, we're not having a problem or concern with necessarily the revenue reported, but the occupancy is just absolutely a mess dealing with occupancy reports. So this will help some of those properties also that maybe need us to step in. So I would like to, as matter of a motion, to go ahead and starting July 1, start doing 2 quarterly property audits.
You say the last audit, it was 2009, 5 years ago?
Yeah,
6 years ago?
Yeah, that's correct. The last audit, there was actually 5 property audits that took place in 2009, and there has not been an audit since.
Yeah, that's why we started talking about it.
That's right.
So, yeah. And how do you choose the CPA? Do we have one that we use, or do you have someone in mind, or what's that process look like?
I think what I'll do is I'll put out a proposal for a Carson City licensed CPA. I'll accept proposals based on up to 8 audits per year of lodging properties. I know that in the past they've only used 1, but I know that they've had several interested in performing the audits for the property. So, yeah, I don't know if I'll work independently. I won't work through the city through contracting. I'm going to go ahead and handle the proposals and we'll accept a Carson City CPA, licensed CPA, to go ahead and take care of the audits for us. And I'll bring it back for approval before we obviously go through July.
And we want to start 1 July, right? I mean, I'll make a motion.
Any comments from the audience about this? Okay, go ahead, sir.
I move to approve the Carson City Visitor Bureau solicit proposals from licensed CPAs to conduct quarterly audits of lodging properties.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? All right, motion passes. Thank you. Possible action, approval to reschedule the monthly CCVB Executive Board meetings to the fourth Monday of each month.
Okay. This has been on the request list from staff since the day I brought staff in. As you know, I can tell you when I go through my executive director's report today, we didn't have numbers finalized for occupancy and revenues from properties until today. It is absolutely a nightmare staffing-wise to be able to prepare for the second Monday of each month. And a lot of times it's not accurate data. It's not accurate on the occupancy side this time. The revenues certainly are. We have all of our revenues in. Having the opportunity to just move the meeting back 2 weeks will allow us to give more accurate data. We'll be able to definitely have all of the month. We'll be actually catching up on the additional month of room tax revenues. All of our expenses will be up to date. It will help staff out. I can tell you that the amount of hours it takes to prepare the room tax revenues just for the second Monday is wiping staff out. So if there's an opportunity, but I also can say that it would be, I would imagine the lodging properties would want the most accurate data. It's tough for me to hand out an occupancy report when I'm not confident that the occupancy numbers are correct. I do my best to make sure the revenues are correct. I'm always confident that the revenues, I've never had to go back on revenues, but over the course of the year and a half, we've made 6 adjustments after the meeting to occupancy reports. This month was probably one of the worst. We had numerous properties reporting as of last week, which they can do through the 15th of the month. When they come in to report their room tax revenues, we're backtracking. Their occupancy report is, they're giving us checks and telling us they booked no rooms. We're trying as quickly as we can to get online. Well, last week we had 2 properties in saying, listen, we don't even have a computer. We don't have an accountant. They're doing it on paper. We're struggling through it. So those 2 weeks will be helpful for staff. We do run into a couple of holiday weekends in that fourth Monday. I handed out in the packet, if you can see, the proposed dates if we were to accept going to the fourth Monday of the month. The one change would be we would go on a Thursday for Memorial Day, which would put us on May 28th, which is the weekend after Memorial Day, so it wouldn't interfere with travel. The rest of them all fall on the Monday, so we wouldn't have any other issues other than just May for the remainder of this year. I hope it fits into everyone's schedule. Certainly if the board feels that they prefer not to move, I understand, but it would certainly help staff out.
Well, I have a problem with it. I truly do. If you go to this schedule, I'll miss the next 3 meetings. So, but how important is the occupancy reports to be reported to us in the next month? We as a board don't take any action. I want to know it. I truly do, because I know the old director did not give this information. But I'm just asking. How?
Probably for us, not, but for the lodging properties, we look at it. Well, certainly we can't have a board member missing 3 meetings. However, I would say that we need to take a second look before we put out information that's not accurate. So if that means we've got to skip a meeting with data and go to the next meeting, wherever the case may be. So from a board standpoint, maybe not for us, but from a lodging standpoint, we look at the market, how the market's trending, how the occupancy's trending, how the ADR is trending. So that information is critical, that it's accurate and that it's, so I just think from our responsibility, it's not that we're responsible for making sure we put out important information. With that being said, if Stan can't make meetings, then this is not going to work.
Yeah, maybe, we'll look at it, start of the next fiscal year, we'll bring it back and see if it's still advantageous. Maybe by that time we'll have all of our online payments and it'll be done. ultimately, the goal is to have this handled through payments through the treasurer's office, so that when you have a property in default of paying a tax, they're responsible for paying the tax. So in that online, we're working on that at one time with Al Kramer, and as soon as the city has another treasurer on, we'll see if we can work through that process with them.
Would a week make a difference, or do you need the 2 weeks?
The difference there is that next Monday's not available.
Yeah, this room.
This would be the only one this room would be available.
Yeah.
So if we're a month behind, is that okay? I mean, instead of trying to get accurate, we'll say these numbers represent the previous month. I mean, that's okay too. I mean, no problem with that.
And that's what we'll do moving forward until which time we decide to either, well, we're going to simplify that process. We are going to nail the properties that are struggling with this, because when you have one walk in with the paper and it's completely messed up, and the one walks in the next, 5 minutes later and has a great report for us. So we know the form works. We know it's simplified. We actually worked through this form at our last lodging property meeting. We had a lot of the lodging properties that were there. This is what we talked about for the majority of that session. So we'll get it handled. I will, we'll keep on schedule. We didn't, we haven't changed anything with this room, so we have the room booked out. So yeah, we certainly can't lose a board member, so.
Well,
Yeah, and you know what, staff, we work hard and we'll continue to work hard.
Does this prohibit you, your staff, from working with, even if you don't provide us with the data for 30 days, does that hinder your operation any?
No, not at all. The fact that we work within our budget and we're in the black, it wouldn't concern me at all. We're okay. We'll report, and what I'll do is, I may have, just as we do in our revenue reports, where I show room revenue for a month before, when I do my occupancy reports, I'll do the same thing, because I certainly can go back a month in occupancy and show the revenues. That's, because the revenues are imperative for us and you as a board, so, yeah, we'll do that moving forward. Okay. I told him I'd give it a shot.
All right, any comments from the audience about that?
I move not to approve the Carson City Visitors Bureau move their monthly meetings to the fourth Monday of each month, beginning 4/27 of 15, and to keep the current schedule.
Oh. Go ahead, Stan. Do you want a second?
No.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? All right, motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we are up to Joel.
All right. In your packet,
surprise,
you'll have
Executive
the
Director's
Executive Director's Report. The one change that I did this month, and we talked about it last month, because of the number of visitors coming into the Visitors Bureau with our new location, at any given time, there could be 2 or 3 of us helping guests, trying to keep track of where they're from. We're going to continue to ask, and we're keeping, but once again, I'm not going to give you data that I don't feel is accurate, and it would be just a sample portion of who's coming into the Bureau. So I eliminated it. I know who's coming in. We'll give, maybe in the quarterly report, that we had so many international visitors, we have groups from different areas, but to put in the data right now, because I can tell you I'm probably the worst, and I get up and try to help everybody I can when they come in, and I'm probably helping the least amount of people in the staff, so. Okay, but total through the door, we did the door count. Once again, it only counts those people as they enter, not as they exit. The door count for the last month, which was the 9th of February through today, March 9th, was 1,768, which brings our total from the time we put the door counter in back at the end of October to 6,422. The numbers are great. We have people continually coming in. We're going to open back up on Sundays, and I think what I'll do is, rather than having an increase in staffing, I'll probably look at maybe the Monday or Tuesday, and we'll eliminate an hourly position that would be watching the store and have them work on some marketing, so, which they're already doing. So numbers are solid. Now, going down into the lodging activity, once again, when you look at the revenues, when we get back into page 2, you can see that there's certainly some concern. And I know that Board Member Dommy Jesse has mentioned that in the past when we look at some of our significant increases in our room revenues and our ADR, but our occupancies are staying fairly flat. Our occupants should be up a little bit, but I can tell you, in looking at the visitors that we're bringing in, The target market, who we've marketed to over the last year and a half, we talked about this when we first started this whole strategic marketing plan, that we were going after people with more discretionary dollars, people that have a tendency to spend more while they're here. Although sometimes they may stay less nights, they're going to spend more when they're here, and it is certainly showing to be exactly that. But occupancy rate, as reported currently, not up to date, but as of today, top 13 properties, we're at 40.34% for January, which would be basically flat compared to last year and up 8.3% from the year before. Second page, occupancy rate for the top 5 properties. See an increase, once again, just fairly flat. We're at 44.1% as of 43.75 from 14, up 4.4% from 2013 January. Average room rate, this is where, if there was one thing that we talked about with the lodging properties when I first came on as the director, the properties emphasized the importance of getting the average daily rate to increase in Carson City. Now, one of the issues with that is you certainly don't want to go above the per diem rate because we had a drop in per diem. But I believe that the per diem rate has actually increased the medium level properties ADR because they can charge a little bit more, where the top couple of properties are charging a little less. But we're seeing some pretty significant increases in our average daily rate. The average room rate for the top 13 properties is up 16% from last year at $60.94 and up 19.5% from the same time period 2013. Average room rate for the top 5 properties is up just under 5% at $73.46 and up 12.43% from 2013. Total revenue. Revenue reporting for January 2015 was $841,454.48. That's an increase of 10.86% from last year and an increase from 23.94% same time period 2013, which is key because now you're talking about 2 legislative years in comparison, and we're up 23%, almost 24%. Next page, total revenue, top 13 properties. Top 13 properties brought in just over $800,000. That's up 11.8% from last year, up 25% from 2013. Total revenue, top 5 properties. Top 5 properties are up 5.55%, bringing in $582,511.78 for January. That's up 17.38% from 2013. Trailing 12, this is obviously one of the key indicators of where we're at in a 12-month period. What's exciting to me is I know that when we talked about looking at a 6% increase a year ago, we said that we would potentially be looking at about a 6% increase. We budgeted for 2.5 and 3 respectively in 2 different budget cycles, but we're past that 6%. Total trailing 12 for all properties, we came in at 14.6 for January. That's an increase of 6.46% over last year's trailing 12 and up 20.47% of 2013. So once again, even if occupancy is fairly stagnant but increasing a little, the people that we have coming into our community are spending significantly more while they're here. They're spending more on their rooms, which means they're spending more when they're in their community also. So that's great. The numbers, I can tell you the last several months have been amazing. I was anticipating some increases coming into the legislative session, but to see those increases with the 3 months leading into January and February for the session, outstanding for the community. So numbers are great. Any questions on any of the occupancy and revenue reports? Okay. I will bring back any changes in the occupancy for this report in next meeting, but the revenues, they're reported, and that's what we're paying our tax on, so that's what we got in. Okay. Continuing, want to touch base. We'll get into, Kyle's got a draft marketing report. We've been compiling with staff the 1, 3, 5, and I think, are we going out to 5 or 10? 5-year marketing strategic plan. I do want to talk about, I'm going to jump to C before that, and we're going to talk a little bit about the travel shows. I had a chance. I don't normally go to the shows. We will send staff. Chris has gone to a couple of the different travel shows, and Kyle also goes to the shows. We've sent Elena Shine went to one of the golf shows for us, working collectively with Divine Nine. The way the travel shows have worked historically is we will partner with either Nevada Commission on Tourism, who will buy a booth or, say, a series of booths, and the territories of the state, being we're part of the Reno Tahoe territory, will get to come and represent the area at one of those booths. We also partner more often, though, with the three partnering communities, which is us, Carson Valley, and Virginia City. The first show for this series was the Santa Clara show. The three directors, myself, AJ, and Denny Dotson from Virginia City, attended the first one in Santa Clara. And we went on a few sales calls. The sales calls will be the day before. You go out, you sit with travel agents, you sit with writers, you sit with the groups, and you talk about your area. I think that's the most beneficial part of these travel shows. If you look at the dollars spent, and as you know, I'm analyzing everything we always do based on return on investment. We need to make some changes on how and what we do at shows. Based on what I saw at the Santa Clara show, we're about $2 to almost $3 per lead, per qualified lead. That's too much. So if we go, I went to the Santa Clara show, we came back with about, I think, 700 leads, which is actually a successful show based on some of the shows they've done in the past. That's not enough. That's not enough for the time that we spend, the amount of money that we spend to get to these shows. Where we did get the return on the investment, though, is as directors, we had an opportunity to sit down with press and media. We were able to meet with bloggers. My focus was on bloggers and writers that were pertaining to outdoor recreation, biking, road biking. We've got some pretty good qualified leads. We're going to bring in a couple of bloggers, set them up in a lodging property, have them, become aware of what we have as a destination for what they write about. There still needs to be some changes in those booths. We've all been to shows where you walk up, I think most of the time they're walking up to get free swag. They want a free pen, they want a free clip chip, and that's not what it's about. So we're going to look at how we do it a little bit differently. The next travel show, Denny Dotson and I will work collectively. We had a chance to talk afterwards. We're going to set up a few media meetings. We're going to set up a dinner, maybe a lunch, with just writers, and showcase the area. If you do that as part of these shows, which you can pay for, it's just too much. It's about $5,000 extra to have an opportunity as part of the show to sit in front of these writers, but the writers are there. We can identify the writers that really have an opportunity to reach our target market. So we'll make changes along those lines. But I also think that there's going to be some changes in the shows that we attend. I'm going to reach out to Nevada Commission on Tourism. I believe that they may want to look at maybe having some changes on the shows that they have as far as the representation. It's imperative that we're part of it, because sometimes when you have a table that's very heavy with Southern Nevada, there's not a lot of awareness of what the northern part of the state has to offer. And Nevada Commission on Tourism certainly is focused on marketing the rural communities, of which we are. So we will continue to partner with them, but I'd love to, work with the three cities and maybe influence them on how they change their shows also. That being said, although it rained the entire time in Santa Clara, it was a great show. We collected the leads. We're following up on the leads. The next show, Virginia City went ahead and took the leads, and the LA show that Chris will talk about a little bit, I believe that Tahoe took the initiative as part of one of the partnering cities. So I do think that there's certainly a return on the investment, but we can't spend more than $1 per qualified lead. That's about what I'm comfortable with. So we're going to have to bring it down a little bit. So I'll let both Kyle and Chris talk about the two shows if they win. That'll lead into going back to B, to the marketing report and Kyle's report, if there's no other questions of me. Great.
So I went to the Long Beach show, the Travel Adventure show in Long Beach, which is similar to what Joel went to in Santa Clara. It was February 20th and 21st. I worked in a booth, which we've done in the past, Reno Tahoe territories, which included Reno, Carson Valley, Virginia City, and us. And then this year, Reno Tahoe paired up with NCOT, so instead of having just one booth, we had the whole quad. And it worked out pretty well, but there's could have been some changes. I think that RTT will be working on that to see how we can do it a little bit different. It was supposedly the biggest show they've ever had, the Travel Adventure. Out of all the shows they do all over the United States, this is supposedly was the biggest attendance they've had. We only brought back about 600 names, so I don't know how many of them are, writers and that yet. I haven't got that information back from Tahoe yet, but we'll probably have it for the next meeting. So it was a good show, but like Joel said, I think we can do some other shows or maybe do it every other year or something like that to try to mix it up a little bit more. Mostly consumers is what we ran into at this one, so.
Shows, these are people looking to book events for, looking for obviously a city. I mean, what kind of people are coming to these shows? Meeting
The Long
planners?
Beach show, it's mostly consumers come in, and the show is based where they pay to go to the show, so they're looking for travel. So you get it seems like a lot of it's Long Beach people in that area, so they're coming in and just going and seeing all the places that they can get to, quickly in a weekend kind of thing is the impression I get. They're starting to they do like a lot of world vendors as well, and then now they're starting to add like booths that sell travel stuff as well to try to get them, but most of it's DMOs and such trying to get everybody's attention, come see us kind of thing. But it's mostly consumers. They do open up the show the first day for like an hour to let the writers and the professionals come in first, so you get a chance to talk to them more. After that, it's just everybody's coming at once.
So I went up to Portland for the golf show, and this is the second year that we went up for that one. It was as Divine Nine, but the Visitors Bureaus are obviously doing the marketing for Divine Nine. So it was myself and the head pro for Carson Valley Golf Course. Portland usually is packed because it's pouring down rain and everybody's looking at where they're going to go to play golf. We happen to get 3 sunny days in a row. So the show numbers were actually much lower than they were the year before, but we actually got about the same amount of leads out of it, so just under 500 leads. From a booth standpoint, it was valuable having the visitors bureaus there because people were definitely more interested in what you can do off the golf courses. There was a lot of recognition of Divine Nine up there, so it wasn't a lot of introducing people to our golf courses. It was just, now that you know about us, what are you going to do? Where are you going to go eat? Where are you going to go stay? What are you going to do alternatively? So that one, I mean, just improvements-wise, it felt very separate from the people you were trying to reach with that table in between, and about 15 pieces of printed collateral. It'd be nice to go ahead and consolidate some of the printed collateral as Divine Nine contemporizes a little bit, and do some more experiences and interactive type things, because without going into what people were actually saying, it was, they had their Reno experience, they had their Vegas experience, they were happy that it happened one time, but they were looking for something different, and that's where Carson could come into play. So whether we decide to do that one again next year or not, I think Portland is still an important market for us to be in, so.
I'll go ahead and include in the agenda for next month, Kyle will come back and talk about the changes. They're going to make some pretty significant changes to the Divine Nine once again. It's going to go back to more of a true marketing group, concession group with the golf courses and lodging properties. So Kyle will touch on that next month. You think you'll be ready for that? Okay, perfect.
So I handed out the draft of our current strategic plan a few months ago, and we were going to present this to you last month, so it's kind of been sitting here waiting. But a few months ago, we recognized that we had accomplished all of the goals that we had formally set for ourselves pretty quickly. So in order to stay focused and on the right path, we wanted to get the creative team together and see where everybody's heads were at with a 1, 3, and 5-year plan. So what you're going to see here is kind of more broad, some of the more intellectual answers that came out of that meeting put down, and then from here we can dive into more details and things like that. So this is just phase 1 of what came out of that strategic planning. So if you flip to the first page, you'll see what our mission is, to offer the best location and value for travelers looking for an authentic and memorable Northern Nevada and Tahoe region experience, and to market Carson City as a top destination for outdoor recreation enthusiasts. I'm not going to read all of these because this will take forever, but you have it here to review. And because this is a draft form, we want suggestions, we want notes, ideas, so write it down and get that back to us so we can go ahead and.
Absolutely.
Gentlemen, would you like to?
And we would love any suggestions from any member of the community also.
Okay. Going down into our strengths, public perception's at a all-time high right now. We are achieving consistent branding and brand recognition throughout the region and the community. We are operating within the budget, and we have achieved a slim surplus. My favorite one is that we long for outside of the box. It's just not satisfying if it's been done before. So that is a huge strength of ours, is the creativity. We are considered a driver of our economy now with the information of 35% of taxable sales coming from visitors. Our geographic location will obviously be a strength, and the new MAC, when it is completed, is going to be an asset to the community as well. Going into the challenges, and again, these were kind of communal as they were suggested. You know, everybody was at the table sitting talking about these, so this is a group effort here. Challenges: maintaining our ROI in regards to intergovernmental relationships. So that includes at the state level with NCOT, city level with interlocal agreement, V&T, any relationships that we have, just making sure that the money that we're putting in has a solid return on investment for what our goals are. So. As we all know, there is a lack of conference and meeting space here. Hopefully that'll be changing. We have outgrown most of our fields for our tournaments, so we are kind of at a cap for our field space. Within Carson City, we'd still like to have more brand penetration, so that's just going to come from recognition through the community about the apps, the social media, the events that are going on, and just having more community awareness. And the upcoming downtown construction, although we're all very excited about what it's going to bring, is going to put a bit of a damper on the whole downtown thing while it's being constructed. So we'll just deal with that. Our institutional goals, so this would be more inside the walls of the Visitors Bureau, how we operate. We'd like to continue to operate with a surplus budget. And we want to continue to improve the return on investment with our intergovernmental relationships. So still looking to keep those, but just make them more efficient. And to continue to strengthen our independent contractor base, which would be our writers, photographers, things like that. Some of the marketing goals that we've set for ourselves is to improve outreach and training of frontline staff and hospitality training. So that would be the partnership with WNC hospitality course, as well as things like our social media symposium, and any other outreach that we do with hotel staff, restaurant staff, and things like that, just to continue to get the app out and everything that we do. We want to continue to implement new technology as it comes out to the visitor's experience to be ahead of the curve, so that would include our interactive kiosks, mobilely optimized interactive mapping, and whatever else is to come down the pike technology-wise. Expand our brand recognition throughout the Midwest, just a new region that we haven't touched on yet. Improve relations and outreach within regional and local Hispanic community and underserved community in our area. Encourage longer stays in Carson City, as well as increase spending while they're here, and reach the inbound international traveler more effectively, and that's a direct parlay off of NCOT's international marketing efforts.
Kyle, can I ask or offer one more goal?
Absolutely.
And that would be to celebrate the Pardon Our Dust when we're doing the construction, and to work with the chamber and work with Impetus through Loomis on a consistent message, so that what's going out there is consistent the whole time. And perhaps there can be activities and things, to celebrate what's going on so people pay attention.
Directly in relation to the downtown.
That's correct.
Perfect. Thank you.
And Downtown Business Association, too. All of them. Thank you, Stan. Yeah. No, they all need to work together. And I've talked to Ronnie at the Chamber about this as well. They really want to be on board in terms of consistent messaging.
Well, we're happy to take the lead on that one. So.
Okay, great.
Absolutely.
Kyle, when you say reach the inbound international traveler, now that our airport supposedly is an international airport, is that another source that we might want to pursue?
just
Or advertising or,
advertising at the airport itself.
right.
That is something that we'll consider.
Yeah, and that does correlate also with when you look at the improved relations and outreach with the regional Hispanic community. The ties now that you've got direct flights from Guadalajara, and that's certainly going to be a growing market for us. So, yeah, we will work with them. There are some challenges, though, because we are not part of that regional marketing committee, but we could certainly just be a paying customer.
And I do just want to reiterate that these are really broad goals, and we're looking forward to the more details to come in behind it, but we just, again, wanted to let everybody know where our heads are at. For events goals, we absolutely want to develop a strategy to fill the MAC facility. No open courts, no downtime. If we've got the ability to put something in there, we'd like to. We'd like to improve the music scene by encouraging promoters and musicians to be involved with the community events, and that's just more the overall visitor experience. That would include busking downtown, bigger concerts going on, more things that are just musically based to just continue to broaden and deepen that visitor experience. Some specific ideas that came out were high-level or professional video gaming events, so competitions that are held, on video game systems in large, the auditorium in there and everything like that, so there'd be spectators. Seek out some more multidisciplinary events, so like Tough Mudder, triathlons, different things like that. As well as maintain or develop the overall mountain biking experience with different partnerships. I know Heavenly is opening up their lifts to some mountain biking, and we'd already worked, stuff with the lift tickets, so we're having that conversation about the mountain biking. And we'd love to have the V&T Railway have some mountain bike racks or cars specifically that could take people up to Virginia City so they could enjoy the downhill back into Centennial Park and down into Gonai. So,
What about the Epic event? I mean, is that
Yeah,
going to be?
we have an MOU in place. The MOU on our side is pretty standard. It's just the funding mechanism. The MOU now is actually at the city manager's desk. That is pertaining to any of the permitting and fee structure with the event itself. Looking at a announcement of a potential Epic Ride event coming in April. Yeah.
Okay, so that closes out the goals. Again, let us know what your notes and thoughts are on all of that. Moving into the target markets, so this is divided up into between the drive market, the flight market, and the international market. So drive market, Sacramento, San Francisco, Los Angeles with an O, not an A, Bishop, California, Bend, Oregon, and any of the towns that are on the Highway 50 corridor between Carson City and Ely. So that would be Fallon, Austin, Eureka. So that at least guides, when we're doing our social media geolocated post, where we're sending those out to. In regards to the flight market, we were looking at what domestic flights go directly into Reno. So that would be Chicago, Dallas, Phoenix, Minneapolis, Portland, Las Vegas, and Salt Lake City. So that is direct flights into Reno.
I think under the drive market, you want to target voice.
Okay. Any other suggestions? Okay, the target or the international market, and this is Travel Nevada. This is directly who they market to. So this would be Brazil, South Korea, China, Mexico, Canada, England, Australia, Germany, France, and India. And we are actually seeing an increase in foreign travelers coming into the gift shop. So we're seeing their efforts work, and we are strategizing to figure out how we can, better serve the international market once they do get here.
New Zealand as well. A lot of we get a lot of customers in from New Zealand, and because it takes so long to get here, they stay a while.
Absolutely. All right, thank you. Did put in additional markets. This wasn't geolocated, more of a demographic, but the business leisure traveler, which has always been a big traveler into Carson City, now, combined into the bleisure traveler. So if you hear that term, I'm not just slurring. The local and regional Hispanic community, again, with the direct flights from Guadalajara, we just love to be more prepared for, having relationships with Spanish-speaking travelers and people living here that they would be visiting. as well as the Millennial Traveler, and that's the hotbed right now. So in the next page, I won't go ahead and read these out loud, but these were a couple quotes about the Millennial Traveler that were found in the Huffington Post, just about what their travel patterns were, just kind of get an idea of, we're marketing to this demographic, what are they actually like, what do they do? So you can read that on your time. Desired measurable outcomes, we'd love to see the continued increase in room tax revenue as well as visitor spending, continued national recognition as a travel-worthy destination, increased brand awareness and community understanding of the role the CV plays in our local economy, and increased attendance in the social media tourism symposium. Do you have any questions on that one?
You know,
When you talk about, pardon me, go ahead. Increased brand awareness, what are you talking about?
That again, like when we go into a restaurant and ask, hey, do you know about the Visit Carson City app? And we get that blind look, that we don't want that to happen anymore. You know, I mean, we've got good reach into the community, better than it ever has been before, but it's still nowhere close to what it needs to be. You know, and we've all been in those meetings where people don't know what's going on. So we need to go ahead, and really the only way we're going to be able to tell that is going out to those restaurants and no longer people being like, well, what do you mean you got an app? It's they're coming to us saying this app is great. We love this. You know, we use your calendar. Just more awareness within the community, because right now it's not where it needs to be. Did you have a question? Readjusting? Okay. Stan, did that answer your question?
Yeah.
Was that okay?
how I tie the brand awareness outside of the community, I can say in Santa Clara, for the first time, to really see the results of us selling ourselves as much more than just a great historical community. The fact that we have the outdoor recreation. I had a writer come up to me who had visited Tuolumne Visitors Bureau booth, which was on the other side of the entire room. And they made it a point to come over because Tuolumne had said, you need to go talk to Carson City. They're a fantastic mountain biking community. And to have that awareness out there outside of our community needs to understand the dynamic of what we have and how we're selling it. When you see the results of that demographic coming in and what they spend when they come in, that would be more of the brand outside of it, so I'll continue on.
I'll even go a step further. We just had a visitor come into town. I had no idea Carson City even existed, was down in Sedona and Flagstaff looking for a place to relocate, and talking to somebody at a restaurant down there. They said, you should really check out Carson City. It's an emerging outdoor town, and they just started talking about all the characteristics this person was looking in their relocation. And so we were recommended by somebody, and that's kind of the thing is I almost feel like we've got better recognition and more positive recognition outside of Carson City, and we're still really working on bringing the residents and the locals up to celebrate what we've been doing, you know, and that we need to get there soon, because they're part of the visitor experience too. You know, when I moved here, ask a neighbor, there's nothing going on. You know, that's not what I want for more people to have when they move here from here on out. So. All right, going on to what we've been doing lately. We kind of had a soft release for our 2015 marketing campaign, Be Our Guest. So this came out of the fact that there's so much more international marketing going on through Travel Nevada. We're actually getting to sit in front of some of these sales representatives from South Korea, from Brazil, from Mexico, and we want to have some collateral. And we want to have a message that's welcoming so that they feel like Carson City is a safe and comfortable place for them to come and visit before they even look us up online, before they even, you know, see what we have to offer. We want something that portrays that welcoming message. So the goal is to open the most travel-worthy state capital in the country to visitors from all over the world by making them feel welcome before they even arrive. So what you see here is this language star that Tara created that has the phrase, Be Our Guest, as well as welcome in the foreign languages that are listed in the international market. So all the languages that you see here from India, France, Germany, all that stuff is translated here into Be Our Guest. And that's going to be our main image for this that can be put in, you know, on the images, in our logo, however it may be. And then that is given to Travel Nevada to go ahead and take to their international sales missions. And when we do our speed dating marketing things, you know, there's that one sheet of information that you can hand over for the, you know, the elevator pitch, you know, that they get that sparks their interest. So with that said, we've kind of already started using this in some of the ads we've put out. This is going down into Southern California, Phoenix, San Diego, in a newspaper insert. So you see we've got the Be Our Guest down here, the top 10 choice. That was the first one. And then what we're working on is rack cards. So what you have is you've got the welcome message here, and then Travel Nevada is going to go ahead and translate this into all the different foreign languages. So when it sits in a rack card, you're going to see Be Our Guest in South Korean or Chinese or whatever it may be, and they'll be able to grab this, get a picture painted about what Carson City is all about. It's got our app, it's got our website, all of our social, and then they've got something, that one sheet that they can take home that's translated into their language. On the back of it, we'll have some pretty striking images, probably a few images of Carson City per language with logos and more information on top of here too. So it's just visually striking, short and sweet, but again, it's a welcome message for the international traveler, which from what I hear of ENCOT is nobody's doing this in Nevada. I mean, they're marketing to the world and foreigners get here and we speak English, you know, and it's kind of this weird, awkward scenario. So we're trying to avoid that. So from a social standpoint, Be Our Guest is going to be our hashtag. We're going to be using that on every one of our posts now across our social board, and promoting that as if you're coming to Carson City and you want to find the businesses that are the most friendly and the most welcoming to you, follow on social that hashtag Be Our Guest. So we're encouraging our lodging when they make posts to put Be Our Guest, dining to include Be Our Guest, because we're going to be promoting that hashtag. And when you come over as a foreign traveler, if we do a good job getting that across to you, you're going to be able to look and see which one of our businesses are actually friendly and welcoming to foreign travelers. Our website is going to add a translation feature. Right now it does not, so when you come on from wherever you are, again, it's in English. There's a widget that we're going to add to that to go ahead and be able to translate into any language that you're looking at. And again, you know, from a foreign traveler standpoint, if we roll out the welcome mat to them, there's way more likely of a chance that they're going to stay here and enjoy the entire region, as opposed to going to a more visible Reno or Vegas. You know, we're kind of taking the lead of being that welcoming committee as the state capital.
Kyle,
Yes.
is there any possibility of having that translation on the app as well, since we're promoting it?
That we got to get with Blue Bridge on. I don't know if they have a translation thing quite yet, but that would be something that we would want to add to. We want everything we want to be fully translatable.
I wonder if they could almost like clone the app and then translate it, so then when you're sending out the message, you're sending out that specific app for that language. I don't know if that's...
And actually, it would be doable, because right now we can clone the app, but we handle all of the content. So the CMS is handled internally. So it would be working with Travel Nevada to translate and, you know, one at a time, figure out what target market we'd go after. But yeah, I think is definitely doable. But I think we would want to sit down. We had a meeting, conference call with Blue Bridge last week and talked to them about the interactive mapping and some other things. And we're really driving their technology. I think that's a great suggestion. I think we'll take it to them, and if we can push them to do it and just create that widget, I mean, it's no different than a widget for a website, and it certainly would be a useful tool. Yeah.
And the thing is, you know, we're talking on an international level here, but let's be honest. I mean, our entire country speaks different languages. You know, I mean, all over. This isn't. You know, we're not taking an isolationist type role here of just being in our region. I mean, people, if we're going out to Chicago and Detroit and some of these other cities, they have people that speak different languages too. As the state capital, we want to be welcoming. You know, it's not just about reaching them when they're overseas, but reaching them when they're inside the borders too, and just having this place feel like a welcoming state capital, which we are, but we just need to have some collateral that actually shows that.
To that, increasing local awareness is a huge part of that. How do we do that? Because, you know, the everyday person on the street can spread that word even faster. So how do we do that?
You know, I think that correlates right back to the hospitality training. If we start with the frontline staff of every one of our lodging properties, start with our restaurants, start with our bussers, our waitresses, and we provide the training in how to use the tools, I think that will then trickle down to, because all of us are eating at restaurants, all of us, we're certainly probably not staying at lodging properties, but I believe that would be the place to start. We talked as part of this marketing strategy about, although our focus is always outside of that 50 to 100 mile radius, the influencers within our community is really the key to our immediate success over the last year and a half. And we're definitely, in fact, if you see on the back table, we're working on making sure that we kind of do almost a guerrilla marketing campaign throughout our community of everything we have to offer. So, I agree. I think that, when we talk about that local, we're not going to spend dollars, we're going to spend a lot of time on making sure that our locals are aware. I mean, the fact that we have such a large international market of travelers, the fact that we have 700,000 people come to our community a year, the awareness of our community knowing that it's still not there. But we'll work on it, yeah.
I think the hospitality training is, sorry, Stan, go ahead.
What about taking this and putting down at the bottom, welcome to Carson City, and have everybody put it on their business, like their front door, their business, to show that they're part of this beam, I guess. Make a decal.
Absolutely, absolutely, and that's, and that's kind of, you hit perfect with the hospitality
But
training, because that's where you're going to hit
Make
them.
sure we have welcome to Carson City on it, don't just.
Yeah. Yeah, no, absolutely, and he answered your question perfectly. That's where we get the city involved in it, is infiltrating through the frontline staff and getting them proud of things, and even maybe even teaching them how to say welcome to Carson City in each one of those languages. I know I feel just that much more ignorant when I don't know how to say welcome when somebody from a foreign language country comes into sorry, so that's what we need to do to step up our game, is create that collateral and that vibe here that is welcoming to Carson City.
And I have to say that, when we started sitting in, and Kyle came up with the Be Our Guest, and he's working collectively with the Travel Nevada Commission on Tourism, at the Santa Clara show, to be able to sit down with a couple of these writers, one I'm working with now who actually writes for California Cycle Magazine, which is for the street bicycles, and telling him, listen, we want you to come and be our guest. We want you to come to Carson City. Telling somebody to be our guest is so inviting. Having them come in, stay at one of our properties, experience our restaurants, experience our community, they're going to come back. And to be able to have that opportunity to be our guest, I think it's going to be a very successful campaign. And I love the idea of, you talk about that pride within your community of putting that sticker. You see our stickers, our logo everywhere in this community, on bumpers, on windows, on businesses. And this is phase 2. We certainly will do that. Yeah, I think it's perfect.
Yeah, I think it's positive, and I think when you are proud of yourself and you're confident, that's when you invite people to come be your guests and experience it. And I think we are there. I think it's time to open our doors up and, welcome the world. Okay, so again, more details to come with that. There's only 2 more pages left, so I apologize for sending this longer. But, in 3 years, staying ahead of the curve with travel communication and marketing technologies. Travel Nevada will continue to be a partner. We're actually, Caitlin Godby, who's the social media coordinator for Travel Nevada, and myself are doing a combined presentation on social media to the rural communities in May, I believe. So that was a good partnership to get up there from a state level marketing and a local level marketing. The sharing economy, we will integrate it into our operations. We just don't know how, but that's your Airbnb, your Uber, all this stuff that's coming down the pike that people are freaking out about that's going to directly relate or affect, room tax. We got to figure that part out. We'll continue to be a premier destination for outdoor enthusiasts, continued promotion of art activities, and create Carson City as a recognizable destination for arts and culture. And that last one is bolded on the next 2 pages because we are going to continue to be positioned as the top economic driver, continuing to bring innovative events and things that have a major return on investment throughout the community. You'll see the 5-year goals are a little bit more broad, having to do with technology as well as more international recognition. And then that's that. And just, thanks. That's draft. Send us your recommendations.
Very good work, Kyle. Very nice. Good job.
So last on my report, Kyle touched on a little bit, but both Kyle and I were asked to be part of the Nevada Economic Conference, which is going to be held May 19th through the 21st. It's for Stronger Economies Together. It's up at the university campus. Kyle will be partnering with Caitlin with Nevada Commission on Tourism, doing, once again, you touched on the social media campaign, which, boy, I like it. We talked about trying to get ourselves to the top of that pyramid and to be recognized as those that people will reach out to for information. I have an opportunity to present on, I think, 2 times during the session, and marketing your community as a sports tournament destination, and then building a sports tournament destination out of your community. So look forward to being a part of that for SET Rural Communities and also the Nevada Economic Conference in May. Outside of that, with no changes on our meeting dates, our next meeting will be in this room, April 13th.
All right, thank you. Good report, guys. I appreciate it. Any public comment? No?
I do.
We got board comments now.
Where are we on Fuji Park?
Fuji Park is going to have to be addressed as potential changes within the intergovernmental agreement with the city. There's some challenges that we've faced. I am working currently on one event. There has been a very successful event for 2 years at the Fuji Park, and it's the Bull Smackdown, the Souza Bulls. They've been able to sell out 2 years running 1,000 tickets. Working with the event promoter and keeping those room nights in Carson City and having them promote a lodging property in Carson City and they're actually working with 2 different facilities in Carson. The agreement was that if they were able to work with Parks and Recreation, increasing the seating capacity by 400 to 500, we'd be willing to partner with them and work with it. I'm not endorsing the event. The endorsement of the event would then put the cost of that entire event on the burden of the Bureau. And I'm not comfortable yet until we identify what direct costs of that facility will be, but we're certainly going to help the event to be successful. We're marketing the event, we're creating social media, we're creating website, we're creating ticketing modules, all of those things that would drive the cost for the event promoter, which then will save them the money to be able to pay the fees for Parks and Recreation. What we need to address is, first of all, we need to identify all of the direct costs associated with our endorsement of an event at the Fuji Fairgrounds. But there also is now some concern in regard to maybe the parking agreement that's in place. So I think that'll be handled at the city level, then we'll come back to us, and I believe they're looking into it currently. So I think that will come back maybe, it won't be on the next agenda, but maybe 2 months from now.
In relation to that, Brad made a request with regards to looking at what types of events we could actually have there and what gate prices we could charge for return on investment. Where are we with that?
As far as from us, but I don't know, I must have been out of the loop. The only thing I've worked on as a request for Brad was working with Parks and Recreation based on the potential return on investment or how long the return on investment would have been for the sign project. I completed that, sat down with Parks and Recreation, and I don't believe that they pursued the sign on it. As far as the total seating capacity of 1,000 seats, gate fees, I don't have a report. I can certainly put that report together. I've worked with several promoters now. I've had 2 or 3 different out-of-state promoters come into Carson City, walk through the facility, look at the limitations, look at the calendar. I can prepare that, and I can actually bring that either back to this board first, or I can bring it to the Board of Supervisors.
I think that would be great. It's helpful information, and it's helpful on several levels, including how much parking do you need? Because in backing into this and trying to figure out what we do and what redevelopment does and what, how money is spent, it's really helpful information.
It is. In fact, it'll actually play beneficial when we look at the programmatic use and also the tournament use of the MAC. I use figures based on about 2.5 people per vehicle for events that we promote. I know that might be a little low in some cases, but there's certainly going to be some challenges anywhere that we have any of these events in Carson City based on a 2.5 to a 3.5 people per car, the gate fees and the seating capacity. But I'll bring that back in a report for you. Yeah, no problem.
The other question, do we have to have any concerns with Supervisor Sherp's comments here?
Well, I can tell you that
I didn't quite understand what he was saying.
Yeah, I would have to say that when Chris was looking at the availability of this room, there's so many different community meetings that need to be held in this room. The only available date that we were able to find, and it was not about keeping us at 4 o'clock, but just an available date to move us to the fourth Monday, I don't think that there's any availability for us to even look at doing anything else, but I do believe it's imperative to stay in this room, and I believe it's imperative to keep our meetings televised. I know that in the past, the Bureau did have their meetings, not in this room, they had it at the Bureau, the conference room over at the Road Museum. I think we're on track with it. Yeah, so I don't even think that there's an option for us to look into it. I'll get the calendar, and I'll pass that calendar on to everybody so you can see. This room is used nonstop. Yeah.
Just one more comment. I like what you said earlier, the suggestion of bringing all world sports to our meeting because, as we move forward, and we've talked about sports tourism being a big part of what we do, not the only thing what we do, obviously, but a big part of it. I really think it's important that we take the lead to ensure that all these tournaments and these groups that are coming in are serviced properly by us and to ensure that we are competitive in maintaining that business. And so as we move forward, and we talk about the MAC and all this, I want to make sure that, we talk about all world sports, that we're giving them $20,000, but in their mind, they're saying, well, we're not really happy with some of this stuff, and maybe 2 years from now, we're not going to be here. I want to make sure, I'm not saying I don't have any information that that's not the case. I just want to make sure we have an active role in ensuring that these groups are happy with the service. Because we talk about be our guests and your experience starts here, we got to make sure we live that. And so I want to make sure that Parks and Recs is here and All World Sports is here and that we all are leading this charge. So glad to hear that next board meeting, I don't know about All World Sports, but Parks and Rec can come here so we can ask them directly, challenges, maybe in areas that we can help out as well.
I think it would be great timing to have both of them here. We're all players together. We're partners in this effort, no differently than when we sit down for the MAC, when we include the Boys and Girls Club. So I'm sure that both Ed Feldman as the national director and the president, Jay, would certainly come in April. So, yeah, I'll get him here.
Okay. Any other comments or announcements? All right. Possible action to adjourn? Oh, sorry.
Just one comment, just for the calendar, July 8th is the book date for the Greenhouse Project concert. It will be Pablo Cruz and Ambrosia, so you know.
Consider it posted.
All right. Possible action to adjourn?
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everybody.